The morning was unusually quiet at the Castillo estate, a sprawling mansion nestled in the high-end district of Los Vientos. The air was still, but Mr. Castillo's mind was racing. He stood on his balcony, staring out at the vast compound. Everything he had built, the wealth, the empire, the name, had been for one reason, his only son, Daniel. And now, everything was at stake. Daniel was in Montevideo handling an international merger for Castillo Holdings. It was a high-stakes business trip that would take a few weeks, and he had left behind something just as valuable as any deal, his heart, Sophia. Sophia was beautiful, classy, with the poise of a queen and the charm of a serpent. Mr. Castillo never trusted her. There was something about her smile that didn't reach her eyes, something calculated behind every laugh, every gesture. She had a way of looking at Daniel like a prize, not a partner. He had tried to warn his son, but Daniel was deeply in love, or rather, deeply blinded. Now, with Daniel out of the country, Mr. Castillo saw an opportunity. He wouldn't hire private investigators, no, that was for men who didn't know how to hunt. He would become the hunter himself. By the afternoon, the compound had changed. The marble floors were now swept by an old man with a limp. The sharp, commanding voice of Mr. Castillo was gone, replaced by a gruff, soft-spoken tone. The designer clothes were replaced with a faded blue uniform. His Rolex was gone. His face, aged further by powder and makeup, looked like someone who had spent his life under the sun, not in boardrooms. He was now Mateo, the gatekeeper. Nobody, not even the house staff, recognized him. Sophia didn't even glance twice when he arrived. "New gatekeeper," she muttered to the cook without making eye contact. "Yes, ma'am. Mr. Daniel said he should work here while he's traveling." "He better be useful," she said, tossing her hair. "I don't like lazy people in this house." Mr. Castillo, now the poor gatekeeper, stood silently, gripping the gate with one hand, watching her. In that moment, he knew this was going to be worse than he had imagined. The unveiling of secrets. The days passed, and the mansion, once a place of grace and dignity, slowly revealed its rot. Sophia's true colors weren't just dark, they were terrifying. She strutted around the house like a queen, barking orders at the staff, cursing the cook for overboiled eggs, and slapping the maid for wrinkled sheets. But it didn't end there. She starved the gatekeeper. "You didn't open the gate fast enough today," she said one afternoon, smirking. "No food for you. Starve, and maybe you'll learn." Mr. Castillo said nothing. He simply nodded. She was testing him. But so was he. One night, just 4 days into his disguise, he saw it. A sleek, black luxury car pulled into the compound around 11:45 p.m. Sophia, wearing a silk robe that barely covered anything, ran out barefoot to greet the driver. The man stepped out, tall, muscular, tattooed. Not Daniel. "Baby, I missed you," Sophia whispered as she jumped into his arms, locking lips without a care. From behind the gate's shadows, Mr. Castillo felt his hands curl into fists, but he held back. This wasn't the time. She laughed, and her voice pierced the silence. "Daniel is such a fool. He thinks I'm here waiting for him, crying over video calls. Let him build his empire. I'll enjoy myself here." The man, her lover, wrapped his arms around her and followed her into Daniel's house. It didn't stop there. The next day, she brought another visitor, a woman. And it wasn't her friend. Mr. Castillo watched as Sophia and the woman giggled in the living room, drank wine, and later disappeared into the guest room together. The sounds, the laughter, the moans. Daniel's house had become a brothel of betrayal. All the while, Sophia never failed to taunt the poor gatekeeper. "Old fool," she spat one morning, wagging her manicured finger at him. "If I hear you say a word to Daniel when he gets back, I'll tell him you tried to touch me. I'll scream and cry and lie, and he'll believe me. You think you matter?" You're just a gatekeeper. She walked away with a cruel laugh. Mr. Castillo stood still, silent, observing. His plan was working. That night, he went into the staff quarters, sat on the floor, and pulled out a small notepad. Every name, every date, every sin. He documented it all. Because when Daniel returned, the truth wouldn't just be told, it would be unveiled. And Sophia, she would be unmasked in front of the world. He looked up at the ceiling and whispered, "My son may be blind, but I refuse to let him walk into hell with his eyes closed. The trap is set." From the outside, Daniel's mansion still shimmered with class. The trimmed hedges, the water fountain, the luxury cars in the driveway, it all painted the perfect illusion of order. But inside those walls, everything was decaying, and only one man saw it all. Mr. Castillo, still in the disguise of the humble gatekeeper, was now a silent witness. He saw things that would break any father's heart, but he didn't flinch. He couldn't afford to. Not yet. One rainy morning, Mateo stood under the small shade by the gate, soaked from an earlier downpour. He hadn't eaten in 2 days. Sophia had instructed the maid, "Don't give him food. If he's hungry, he can go beg on the street. Lazy people don't deserve to be fed." The maid, frightened of her wrath, obeyed. Mr. Castillo never asked twice. That same afternoon, she walked past him with a glass of wine in hand and mocked, "So, Mr. Gatekeeper, how's the hunger strike going?" He said nothing. He simply stared at her. "Dummy," she muttered, rolling her eyes. "I don't even know why Daniel hired you. You smell like poverty." That night, he recorded it in his journal, Day 6. Starvation used as control. Verbal abuse. Zero remorse. The staff had learned to fear her. The cook once mistakenly served her food a few minutes late, and she poured the hot stew on the kitchen floor and made him lick it. Mr. Castillo heard the scream from the backyard. He ran to the kitchen only to find the cook on the ground, shaking, tears mixing with the soup on his chin. Sophia stood above him with a cane. "If you ever delay again, I'll pour hot oil next time," she yelled. Then she turned to Mateo. "Are you next? You look like you need punishment, too." Mr. Castillo looked at the cook, helped him up silently, and said, "It's okay. Go wash up." That night, the house transformed again. A different man arrived, short, light-skinned, with heavy chains on his neck. Sophia welcomed him with a peck and a bottle of expensive whiskey. "Daniel will be gone for 2 more weeks," she said with a seductive smile. "This house is mine now." They danced until 2 a.m. The music blasted through the speakers. Even the neighbors complained. One security guard whispered to Mr. Castillo, "Sir, this woman has problems. If my sister brought this kind of woman home, I would break up the marriage myself." Mr. Castillo said nothing, just nodded. He felt the same rage, but he needed proof. Later that week, the worst happened. Mateo was cleaning near the hallway when he overheard Sophia in a heated phone call. "I don't love him, for God's sake," she yelled. "Daniel is just a stepping stone. You think I want to be tied to one man forever? Please," she paced back and forth barefoot. "I need that wedding to happen so I can access his shares and his father's connections. Once I do, I'll dump him like garbage." She ended the call, then turned and saw Mateo standing near the stairway. A pause, a silence, then her face twisted. "You heard that?" Mateo bowed respectfully. "I heard nothing, ma'am." She stepped closer. "If I find out you're recording me or planning to talk to Daniel." Her tone dropped, cold, deadly. "I'll scream that you tried to enter my room. I'll cry, and I'll cut myself if I have to. Daniel will believe me. And you? You'll rot in a state prison for attempted rape." She slapped him hard. "You're nothing, just a gatekeeper. If you want peace, shut your mouth and stay in your corner." She stormed off, leaving Mr. Castillo stunned but not broken. He touched his cheek gently and smiled. Another entry for the journal. The next morning, Sophia dressed in all white and called Daniel over video chat. She lit candles, dimmed the lights, and painted sorrow across her face like a soap opera actress. "I miss you, baby," she sniffled. "This house is empty without you. I just pray God keeps you safe." "I pray every day." Daniel smiled on screen. "I miss you, too, Sophia." She covered her mouth as if trying to control tears. "I've been faithful, my love. Just come home soon." "I will, very soon," Daniel said. Sophia didn't know, but Daniel wasn't fooled. And Daniel didn't know his father was watching from the kitchen door. Later that evening, Mateo sat outside, still dressed in the blue gatekeeper's uniform. The sky turned golden. The wind was calm, but his heart burned. He pulled out his phone and recorded a voice note. "Daniel, when you hear this, I need you to remember something. Not all that glitters is gold. I have seen the devil in a woman's smile, and now I know what love should never look like." He saved the file, locked it with a password. The time for revelation was drawing near. But for now, the house of secrets would continue to rot, and Mateo would continue to sweep. Not just the compound, but the lies that lived inside it. The exposing. 3 weeks had passed. Mr. Castillo had swept more than floors, he had swept through the soul of the woman his son planned to marry, and what he saw underneath was terrifying. The woman was a storm, not just loud, but destructive. And now her confidence had grown so bold, she didn't even bother hiding her wickedness anymore. Sophia stood on the balcony of the mansion one bright afternoon on a phone call, sipping champagne. "Yes, babe. He's coming back next week," she said, twirling her long braids. "But don't worry. I already booked a suite for us in another city. We'll be there by Friday." Mr. Castillo, watering the flowers nearby, pretended not to hear, but his ears caught every word. "I'm just playing nice until I get the ring. Once I do, I'll milk him dry, then bounce." She laughed, a thick, mocking sound. "Hey, if he ever suspects anything, I'll say the gatekeeper tried to molest me. That fool fears me like I'm a goddess. He won't even breathe if I don't permit him." She turned and saw Mateo by the flower bed. "You. What are you doing there?" "I said trim the hibiscus, not the roses, you old bat," she shouted. "I'm sorry, ma'am," he said, bowing. She walked over and shoved the scissors into his chest. "Next time you mess it up, I'll cut your ear. Try me." That night, her lover came again. But this time, she brought 2 women along with him. It was a full-blown party. Bottles popped, music blasted, bodies danced, they drank, they smoked, they kissed, all under Daniel's roof. Mr. Castillo stood by the side gate all night, hands behind his back, jaw clenched. 2 neighbors walked past the compound and whispered, "This house used to be a billionaire's son's house, people have no respect anymore." Another murmured, "Look at the place, turned into a nightclub." Inside, Sophia danced in a revealing dress, a glass of wine in one hand, money in the other. "Come, baby," she said to her lover, dragging him upstairs. "Let's play a new game." Mateo turned away, but not before taking a picture. By morning, Sophia staggered out of the house, hungover and barefoot. The gate was closed. "Open the gate," she barked. Mr. Castillo didn't move fast enough. She marched up to him and poured a bottle of cold water over his head. "Next time I talk, you obey like a dog, you hear me?" The cook ran out. "Ma'am, please. He's old. Don't treat him like that." Sophia turned to the cook and slapped her. "You dare raise your voice at me? You're next." Then she pointed at Mateo. "And you, if you ever open your dirty mouth to my fiancé, I'll finish you." I swear I'll say you tried to rape me. They'll drag you on TV. You'll die in prison. Your whole family will rot in shame. Matteo didn't speak, but in his eyes, the fire burned hotter. Later that day, he called his personal assistant in secret. "Everything is documented?" he asked quietly from the back gate. "Yes, sir," the assistant replied. "Videos, voice notes, phone call recordings, pictures, all compiled and ready." Mr. Castillo nodded. "Good. When Daniel returns, I want it played before her. Do you still want me to keep Daniel unaware?" His voice was firm. "Yes. Let him return in blindness, so the truth will hit harder." Meanwhile, Sophia's confidence turned to madness. She held a mini birthday party for her dog. The living room was decorated, with a dog cake, dog gifts, and dog music. But the main attraction was her ex-boyfriend. "Meet Carlos," she told the guests. "He's my past, present, and future. Daniel is just my investor." They laughed. Mr. Castillo watched from the kitchen door. One of the guests, a strange woman with golden hair extensions, whispered, "Are you sure this Daniel guy won't find out?" Sophia sipped her wine with a devilish smile. "He won't. And if he ever does, I'll cry, lie, and accuse his gatekeeper. That old fool thinks he's invisible." Carlos laughed. "Let him catch us. It'll be fun." They clinked glasses. But what Sophia didn't know was that the mansion was no longer hers to rule. Mr. Castillo had set hidden cameras around key corners, the balcony, the hallway, the kitchen entrance, and even the guest room. Every lie she spoke, every kiss, every bottle popped, every insult, all recorded. It was no longer a house of wickedness, it was a trap. And the moment the bait was in place, Mr. Castillo whispered to himself, "One more week, just one more, then we strike." It was a Wednesday morning. Cloudy skies loomed over Los Vientos, casting a gray mood across the Castillo mansion. Inside, however, Sophia was the sun, or at least she acted like it. She danced across the living room to loud Latin beats, wearing Daniel's designer shirt with no trousers. Her long nails clinked against her wine glass as she laughed into her phone. "No, babe. Daniel is still in Montevideo," she said, chewing gum loudly. "The house is mine for now. I feel like a billionaire's wife already, just minus the ring." She winked at her reflection and blew a kiss. Outside, under the mango tree by the gate, Matteo sat in silence. He'd become a ghost in his own son's home, unseen, unheard, but fully awake. His heart burned, not with anger, but with grief. How did Daniel fall for this? That evening, Sophia gave an order that pushed everything too far. She turned to the maid. "Lock the gate. No food for that old fool tonight. And tomorrow, send him to the back to wash the gutters." The maid hesitated. "Ma'am, he's not young. Those gutters." Sophia slapped her. "Did I ask for your opinion?" Matteo heard it all from the backyard. He walked inside later that night when the compound was dark and approached the maid's quarters. She was crying. He knocked softly and whispered, "Are you all right?" She wiped her face and nodded. "Yes, sir. I mean, Mr. Matteo." He knelt beside her. "You don't have to call me Mr. Matteo now. I'm still the gatekeeper. Just for a few more days." She looked at him, puzzled. "I don't understand." "You will," he replied, standing. "Soon." The next day, Sophia was busy posting pictures on Instagram. #richwife #bosslady at Mimenis loaded. She wore Daniel's watch and posed by his Mercedes. She called him on video chat again, this time in lingerie. "I miss you, baby," she cooed. "I cry every night you're not here." Daniel smiled from his hotel suite. "I miss you, too." Behind him, a large screen played footage. Her dancing with Carlos, pouring wine into another man's mouth, dragging a woman into Daniel's guest room. Daniel had seen everything. But he said nothing. Not yet. That night, Mr. Castillo sat in a small room at the back of the compound, fully dressed, not as the gatekeeper, but in his real identity, black suit, polished shoes, gold wristwatch. He looked like the lion he truly was. He placed a call to his son. Daniel, return home tomorrow. Let's end this. Daniel's voice was calm. Yes, sir. The next morning, Sophia stormed outside in her bathrobe, yelling, "Where is that useless gatekeeper? My car tire is flat." The new driver pointed to the gate. "He resigned this morning, ma'am. Someone picked him up early." "Resigned?" she frowned. "Good riddance." She spun around and walked back in, only to freeze. Daniel was standing in the living room, luggage in hand. Her eyes widened. "Baby, you didn't tell me you were coming today." She ran to hug him. He didn't move. She wrapped her arms around him anyway, but he pushed her off gently but firmly. "Sophia, we need to talk." She looked shaken. "What is it?" "You're scaring me." Daniel sat down. "I heard everything, Sophia." Her face changed. "Heard what?" she asked slowly. Daniel raised a remote and turned on the big TV. There she was, Sophia kissing Carlos in the hallway. Another clip followed, Sophia shouting, "Daniel is a fool," dragging a woman into a guest room, insulting the maid, slapping the cook, threatening the gatekeeper with lies of rape. Sophia dropped the wine glass in her hand. I can explain." Daniel stood. "You don't need to." "But wait. Everything that old fool said is a lie. He wanted me. He tried to touch me. That's why I threatened him." Daniel didn't blink. "That old fool is my father." Silence. Sophia's mouth fell open. "What?" The door opened. In walked Mr. Castillo, no longer the gatekeeper, but the feared and respected CEO of Castillo Holdings. He stood beside his son. "You thought you were deceiving a poor worker, but you've been performing for a king." Sophia dropped to her knees instantly. "Sir, Daddy, please. I didn't mean any of it. I was drunk. Please, spare me." Mr. Castillo cut her off. "You are not just dangerous, you are evil. And I will not let you ruin my son." Daniel turned to the guard standing by the door. "Escort her out. Make sure she leaves with nothing." "Wait, Daniel, please. I love you." Sophia screamed. Daniel looked at her coldly. "No, you loved my lifestyle, not me." The guards grabbed her. She kicked, screamed, and cried, but they dragged her out. Just like that, the mask shattered. The snake was exposed. Outside the gate, the cook and the maid stood silently, watching Sophia being thrown out with her luggage. "She finally got what she deserved," the cook muttered. Mr. Castillo turned to his son and said, "We will find a good wife for you, not a thief in silk." Daniel looked at his father and bowed slightly. "Thank you, Dad." "No, son," Mr. Castillo replied, his eyes sharp. "Thank you for letting me test her before she buried you." The front gate slammed shut behind Sophia with a clang that echoed down the quiet street. The neighborhood, once familiar and indulgent to her, now seemed like a distant world. The same compound she ruled like a queen had exiled her like a plague. Her eyes darted in every direction, but there was no sympathy, no second chance, no one to run to. Even the guards who once greeted her with bows looked away in silence. Inside the mansion, calm returned slowly but surely. Daniel stood in the living room, motionless, staring at the spot where Sophia had just knelt moments ago, begging. "Are you all right?" Mr. Castillo asked, stepping beside him. Daniel didn't respond at first. She lied to me, Dad, he finally said, his voice low. She lied about everything. Yes, Mr. Castillo replied. But you were blinded by love, and sometimes the only cure for blindness is betrayal. Daniel exhaled deeply. Thank you. If you hadn't done this, you'd be married to a demon in disguise. Later that afternoon, Daniel asked to see all the evidence. His father's assistant brought in a folder. Inside were transcripts of her phone conversations, pictures of Sophia with various lovers, screenshots of Instagram captions mocking him privately, videos of parties, drinking, threats to the staff, and one particularly chilling voice note where she said, "Once I get the ring, I'll control everything, even his company. He's just a stepping stone." Daniel shut the folder. That night, he couldn't sleep. His mind raced through memories, every moment she had faked love, every hug, every "I miss you" that was laced with deception. At 2:01 a.m., he stepped out onto the balcony overlooking the compound. Mr. Castillo joined him. "Dad," Daniel said. "How did you know?" "Mr. Castillo smiled faintly. Her eyes. They never softened when you walked into a room. Her words were sweet, but her spirit was cold. Daniel nodded. "I feel like a fool." "No," his father said. "Fools fall blindly, but wise men rise when the blindfold is removed." The next day, news of Sophia's disgrace spread quietly among the staff. Whispers floated from the kitchen to the garage. The maid, Estella, walked up to Daniel with tears in her eyes. "Sir, I'm sorry. We should have told you, but we were afraid of her." Daniel nodded kindly. "You don't need to apologize. You all did your best. My father did more than I ever could have imagined." They shared a soft moment of silence. "I promise you," Daniel continued, "from today, no one in this house will ever live in fear again." Estella nodded. "Thank you, sir." The aftermath. Later that evening, Daniel and his father sat in the study sipping local wine. Mr. Castillo chuckled. "You know, I didn't plan to stay in that uniform for so long." Daniel laughed lightly for the first time in days. "You made a convincing gatekeeper, sir. I even trimmed hibiscus with scissors." He shook his head. "Why didn't you just tell me? Why go undercover?" Mr. Castillo leaned forward. "Because I knew if I told you, love would defend her. You had to see it for yourself. You had to feel the weight of her wickedness without my voice in your head." Daniel looked at his father, silent for a moment. "You were right. I always am," Mr. Castillo said with a smile. "That's why I'm the father." But just as calm began to settle, something unexpected happened. Sophia went online. She posted a picture of herself sitting on the pavement outside the gate with puffy eyes and no makeup. Caption: "I was thrown out of the house I called home. Lies destroyed my relationship. The truth will come out soon." It sparked attention. Sympathy flooded in from people who didn't know the truth. She was used and dumped. Daniel is wicked. Men will always disgrace women. Who throws a woman out after promising marriage? Daniel saw the post. So did Mr. Castillo, and neither said a word. That evening, Daniel received a call from a lawyer. "Sir, Miss Sophia is threatening to sue for defamation. She says you and your father made up stories to ruin her image." Daniel chuckled. "Good. Let her come. But when she does, we'll bring the videos." He looked at his father. "She wants war." Mr. Castillo's eyes narrowed. "Then we'll give her justice. Not war. Justice." In the following days, Daniel stayed off social media. He focused on healing, on regaining his peace. The mansion was quiet again. No late-night lovers, no drunken laughter, no threats, just order. And for the first time, Daniel looked at the home not as a battlefield, but as a haven. "Dad," he said one night. "I want something real." Someone good. Someone who won't pretend. Mr. Castillo smiled. Then we'll find her, son. You deserve someone better than diamonds. You deserve a woman with a soul of gold. Daniel looked at the stars and, for the first time in weeks, he believed it. 3 days after Sophia's social media stunt, the internet was ablaze. Twitter, blogs, and gossip forums buzzed with outrage. Hashtag Justice for Sophia began trending. She was thrown out like a common criminal. Another case of powerful men silencing a woman. But the real storm was still coming. Inside the Castillo mansion, Daniel and Mr. Castillo watched silently. Neither of them responded. Not yet, because silence, when loaded with truth, is louder than noise. On Friday morning, Daniel's legal team received an official letter. Sofia Perez vs. Castillo Holdings, defamation, and emotional damage. She's serious, the lead lawyer said during a briefing. She's accusing your father of conspiring against her and you of humiliation and mental abuse. Daniel leaned back in his seat, smiling calmly. Then let's give her the spotlight she's craving. Mr. Castillo added, let's invite the press. The next day, a private press conference was arranged at the family estate. No media house was told the full details, only that a major announcement regarding the Castillo family would be made. By 11 a.m., the large hall was filled. Cameras, reporters, bloggers, hungry for scandal. Daniel entered the room first, calm, sharp black suit, no smile. Then Mr. Castillo followed, regal as ever in a royal blue suit. The silence was heavy, the air thick. One reporter whispered, "Do you think the rumors are true? Did they really frame her?" Then the projector screen flickered on. Daniel stepped forward. "Good morning. I have kept silent, not because I'm guilty, but because I was waiting for the right time, for truth to speak for itself." He nodded to the assistant. The room darkened slightly as video footage began to play. Clip 1, Sophia kissing a strange man passionately in the hallway. Clip 2, Sophia saying, "Daniel is a fool. I'm only here for the money." Clip 3, Sophia threatening to accuse the gatekeeper of rape if he spoke up. Clip 4, Sophia slapping the maid and calling the staff useless dogs. Gasps filled the room. Cameras flashed, pens stopped writing, mouths opened in disbelief. Some reporters even stood. She said what? This is insane. That's attempted blackmail. Daniel stood beside the screen as it played on. I had no idea what kind of woman I was preparing to marry, he said. But my father, who disguised himself for 3 weeks as a gatekeeper, saw what I could not. A ripple of shock spread across the room. Reporters turned to Mr. Castillo. You went undercover, one asked. Mr. Castillo smiled faintly. Yes. Because sometimes to test loyalty, you must remove your crown and wear sandals. After the final clip. A drunken Sophia shouting at the driver to wash my feet or lose your job, the screen went black. Silence fell. Daniel cleared his throat. I loved her blindly, but love without truth is slavery. Today, I reclaim my peace. The applause was slow at first, then loud, then deafening. The reporters now had their story, but it wasn't the one they came for. It was better. Within hours, the video clips were all over social media. Hashtag Justice for Sophia vanished, replaced by hashtag The Gatekeeper was the father, hashtag Sophia exposed, and hashtag Castillo Justice. Sophia, hiding in a small hotel on the mainland, watched in horror as her world collapsed. She tried to comment on Instagram but was flooded with backlash. You're a disgrace. Your tears were fake. You almost destroyed a man's future. She logged out, trembling. The lie was dead, and truth had buried it. That evening, Daniel and Mr. Castillo sat quietly in the compound. The sun was setting, the air peaceful. Why didn't you say anything earlier? Daniel asked. Mr. Castillo smiled. Because sometimes silence lets your enemies dance long enough to expose their own feet. Daniel nodded. I've learned one thing, Dad. Never ignore the signs and never love blindly. Mr. Castillo placed a hand on his shoulder. And next time, son, you'll choose with your spirit, not just your eyes. They sat together, 2 generations of wisdom, father and son, not broken by betrayal, but bonded by truth. A new beginning. It had been a week since the press conference. The Castillo estate, once stained with chaos and deceit, now breathed with peace. The staff smiled freely. The air felt lighter. Even the flowers seemed to bloom with more pride. But for Sophia, the world was darker than ever. She had tried everything, denials, sympathy posts, even private apologies through third parties. No one was listening. Her lawyer had quietly withdrawn from the case. Sponsors she once boasted of deleted their collaborations. Her social circle vanished like smoke in the rain. She had become a lesson, not a legend. At the Castillo estate, a different kind of healing was taking place. Daniel was different now, wiser, calmer, less trusting of beauty, more interested in soul. He resumed work at Castillo Holdings, walking into meetings with quiet confidence and sharp clarity. But there was something missing. Dad, he said one morning over breakfast. You once told me you'd find me a good wife. Mr. Castillo smiled. Yes, and I meant it. Daniel leaned back. What does that even mean? Good, honest, or just obedient? His father chuckled. A good wife, son, is a woman who will protect your name when you're not in the room. One who won't be perfect, but will be true. Daniel nodded slowly. I want that. You will have it, Mr. Castillo replied, sipping his tea. But first, let the soil rest. You don't plant a new seed in land that still remembers poison. Meanwhile, Estella, the maid, approached Daniel that afternoon with a small wrapped box. Sir, I just want to say thank you for defending us, for standing by your father. You didn't have to, but you did. Daniel accepted the gift. Inside was a small framed photo of the house staff together, smiling. He touched his heart. Thank you, Estella. It means more than you know. As she turned to leave, he asked out of curiosity, what do you think a good woman looks like? She paused, then said, she speaks less with her mouth and more with her character. She defends you even in silence. Daniel smiled. You sound like my father. Maybe he's rubbing off on all of us, she replied. The next Sunday, Mr. Castillo hosted a private dinner. Close friends, board members, and a few respected elders gathered. During the toast, he stood and raised his glass. I disguised as a gatekeeper for 3 weeks, and what I saw shook me to my bones, but it also reminded me, the best test of character is power. He looked around the table. Give someone control over the small, and you'll see what they'll do with the big. The crowd nodded, impressed. Daniel stood next. To those who stood by me, and to those who left when the camera stopped rolling, I thank you, because now I know who's real. Applause filled the room. But poetic justice wasn't just a lecture, it was unfolding in real time. Sophia was later seen at a public market, hiding behind dark shades, trying to sell off her designer bags for half their value. A local blog snapped her photo, exclusive, socialite turned scandal queen seen begging in public. Comments flooded in. She deserves it. From mansion to madness. She played herself. One comment stood out, you reap what you sow, especially when you plant it in another man's house. Back at the mansion, Daniel sat with his father under the garden tree. Dad, he said. I think I'm ready. Ready for what? To meet someone real. Mr. Castillo smiled. There's a young woman on my board, quiet, brilliant, humble. She handles charity work in the villages. Her name is Isabella. Daniel raised a brow. Charity worker. Yes. And she won't know you by your bank account, but by your heart. Daniel nodded. Then let's start there. Mr. Castillo reached out and shook his son's hand. To truth, to second chances. As night fell, the mansion glowed with peace, not just from the lights, but from the spirit that now lived in it. Sophia's chapter was over. The mask was gone, and in its place stood a man reborn, not because he never fell, but because he learned to rise again.